So again, this is like reiterating what I'm saying, that she talks to entities during her session. She said they're always around her, talking to her, giving her information. Granted, we all get downloads, and it's up to us to discern the information based on our own experience and testing things for ourselves. But I personally would never talk to an entity. Like, I don't think higher dimensional beings would face-to-face interact with us, because that would confuse people into thinking that they can trust any entity out there and open us up to exactly what our cyclical downfall. So again, she was given information on dimensional spaces and the Maharic shield, etc., prior to knowing the protection methods that would ensure that it was divine and not otherwise. I'm a huge advocate for intuition or inner knowing, and then asking the divine to reveal further insights to ensure it's really from source, which sometimes it isn't. So you have to be careful. And again, like, I go back to my protection method. That's like super basic, and other people have also talked on it. And apparently it's like an ancient protection method, but it's super basic. Like, even people have just called on protection and it's happened. So you don't need to go to school to learn how to protect yourself. I just want to say, I'm not trying to rip apart Ashiana Deanne or even this lady. Like, I follow her. She's super nice. We're all like just trying to do our best and trying to help others. And I've talked about the channeling and the outsourcing third parties and stuff like that in other videos, but I feel like it's so important to just go over it again. And also always remember, we're never going to agree with everything everybody says or believes. That's just how it is. So we have to remember that. That doesn't mean somebody has said all distorted things or everything that they teach is wrong. That's why it's up to us to listen to what everyone has to say and discern it for ourselves. I don't think saying you can do this protection method and then you're completely immune to possession or anything, because if you're doing low vibrational things or you're in a lower vibrational state of anger, fear, whatever, those are open doorways for attachment. So, in my opinion, from what I've seen. So I don't agree with putting that out there, even though I think it's important to know and believe that you can do simple protection methods and protect yourself. But to say it's the ultimate end all be all and then you don't have to discern the things that you're doing in your life, I don't think that's the right thing to be putting out there. So I personally have experience with entity attacks, so I can talk on protection methods from my standpoint anyway. And all you have to remember is, no matter what's happening to you, mine was like a physical attack where it knocked me out 2 different times and was trying to possess my body. My head was split open on the porcelain sink. Like, this wasn't like a little minor thing. Like, it wasn't like, oh, I'm suddenly like feeling a dark presence and hearing this voice or whatever. Like, this was like a full on like physical attack. And the only thing you have to remember is, you are never separate from Source. Source is part of you. You are part of it. That is never going to change. What changes is through your actions, you push away the light, the divine love and light that is in you, and you are then more and more consumed by the dark, lower states. So you eventually can forget about the higher vibrational love and light, and that makes you feel separated, but you're not separate. Like, you're not. So if you stand in your power in knowing that, like, you have to live in that knowing and live in the knowing that you are a divine being, that everything that is attached to Source has a divine origin. So if you stand in your power, stand in that knowing, no matter what's happening. Now, if it's like a physical, like if somebody's torturing you, that's a completely different story. I'd be having a different conversation. But like, as far as like spiritual stuff goes, if you have out of the blue, like random crazy thoughts that are like super dark, that is not you, okay? You just have to know that. And what you need to do is picture, like in Harry Potter when you're doing the Patronus, like you picture the happiest moment, like you have to anchor yourself in love and light and surround yourself that, even if everything around you is black when you close your eyes, which was the case for me, and that usually isn't the case. So I was like, I can't do the bubble of protection because I can't picture it. But I knew that it was working no matter what, if that makes sense. Like, even if you can't see it, know that it's working. And so you do that for however long it takes. It took maybe like about, I don't know how long it took from the time that I realized that's what I needed to be doing, maybe about 4 minutes, 5 minutes. And then I could feel the entity leaving my presence. And then it was around me for 3 months, from June 21st to September 21st. And I believe it was in my field after that point, because I was then in a lower vibrational state of fear, where even though at first it was subconscious, I didn't think previous to this that I could be attacked by an entity. And because I was, then I was like questioning myself and doubting things. So when you're in that state of doubt, that's the doorway that they love to jump on or try to enter through. So doing basically what Harry Potter says when you do a Patronus, that's how I got rid of it, which is so funny. I literally felt, the last time I felt its presence around me was, I think it was actually September 21st. And what I did was even though I couldn't see it, I could feel it there. And I was talking to it as though it was right in front of me, because it was. And I sent it love and light, and I told it, like a parent to a child, like, I know that you've forgotten the divine spark that you once had, and I'm sending that to you. And I pictured, a moment in time that was like super loving, and I sent that love to the entity, and then it was gone, and it hasn't been back. But it's hard to, when you're in, I don't like to say hard, but when you're in that sort of situation, it's difficult to stay anchored in that. So as long as you remember that and know that you don't need third parties, you just need to stand in your power. And that's the most important thing, because if you're outsourcing to third parties, then if you call, like if you say, Jesus, help me, and nothing happens, then what do you have? You have nothing. Then you're like, okay, like there's nothing else. Like that third party was supposed to protect me, and then you're effed. So you need to realize that source is part of you. You are part of source. You're never going to be separated. You can be separated in your mind or in your being because of lower vibrational states of being that you're in, or choices that you've made that have then led you more and more into the darkness, and it's consumed you. So you've forgotten that divine love, but you're still part of source. Source is never gone from you. You are never separate, and there isn't a point of no return. And that's where, again, I think we come in, like somebody who is in that knowing and in their divine power can help. And it's our job, in my opinion, to help people that have forgotten that, or help beings that have forgotten that, in order to allow them to remember, and then they'll stop, or they will be able to see another path. And I know I talk a good game in my videos and stuff like that, and I'm not completely forthcoming with the things that I'm going through personally, because I handle my own stuff, and I'm not going to be crying on social media, or looking to other people to help me figure something out, because I know that all the answers lie within, and source will reveal things to me as I need them. But the dysregulation of my nervous system that took place immediately following the attack, it didn't set in for me mentally until about 2 weeks after I was attacked, and then it started to set in. And it caused crazy health issues for me. Obviously, like if you know about when your nervous system is dysregulated and you're in fight or flight, your cortisol levels are through the roof, et cetera, et cetera. And I already had a health issue that I've been detoxing from. I have a tumor in my neck that I've been detoxing from. And obviously the dark side knows this. And I was shown during this whole process, I was shown that it was trying to hold good on its word. Like, if it wasn't going to kill me through attack, it was going to continue to try to get to me in order to keep me in a sickly state. But again, Source kept showing me your story and how you're working through this, which is why you need to pay attention to what you're doing, is going to be a help to others. So that kept me going. And my health stuff, like, this is also going to be a testament to doing things through faith, through God, and not going the medical industrial complex route. So I think it's important that we always remember all of our struggles are part of our success story and somebody else's survival guide. So even though it may feel like something's not working, or you've done this a couple times and you just have to stay strong, and that's where faith comes in. That's where you have to believe and have to know that you will overcome this. It's just a period of trial. And it's like faith untested. Can you call it faith? Like, you need these type of tests, or for me, I need to experience things, and I've asked to experience certain things in order to strengthen my belief in the divine and have that faith. In May, I did a 5-day fast, and I was actually shown that the main catalyst for this attack was somebody that I know, who I didn't confront on this, but I know who they are, and I know what they did, and they know what they did, and I'm sure they're reaping the repercussions from it, even though I've done spiritual visualizations over them to make sure that, they're not attacked to the point that they probably would be for doing what they did to me. But it was spell work, specifically Enochian magic, which they call the language of the angels, where you can do certain practices and call on archangels and things like that to do your bidding for you, which is demonic. And this is what people in the spiritual community are doing behind the scenes. So there's a lot of people that have large platforms that are doing these type of things behind the scenes, and they're not telling their audience about that. So you need to be very careful about who you listen to and who you take spiritual advice from. If you want to know more about Enochian magic, look up John Dee and Edward Kelly. I have a friend who commented on one of my videos on shadow people, and she was like, this literally happened to me. And I think she said it was like 6 years of these entities like around her. And she's like 100% like a starseed, like such an angel. Like, she's the sweetest person. And she can actually see the entities where a lot of people can't see them. Whether or not it was the same type of entity that attacked me, who knows? But she was able to get rid of it, she said, again, by standing in her power. And it was all about love. It was all about the frequency of love. And she was worried about her daughter. I think it was her daughter, she said at the time. She was worried about her daughter, and it was kind of like a Harry Potter moment. I'm like, oh my God, you're like Harry Potter's mom, where like she protected her kid with love and herself with love that got rid of the entities because, her motherly instincts kicked in. But that's another testament to being able to stand in your power and use love to counteract these attacks and get these entities completely out of your field. From what I was shown, these entities, well, not all entities, but specifically the one that was sent to me, it seems need us to invoke them to send to other people. So that's why I'm a big proponent of not using any names that are given to us, for God or anything like that, because I believe they're attached to lower vibrational entities. And when you call on them in prayer, thinking that you're calling on God, you're actually calling on these entities and sending them to people. And they'll manifest to that person either as an angel of light or as the dark that they are, depending on where you're at in your journey. which is another component of why I was attacked, aside from the main catalyst, which was the person doing spell work over me.
I will say that there are individuals who will come into their own activation and bioregenesis, and that's great, and it will happen naturally for a lot of people. The MCEO Freedom Teachings is what it is it's an acceleration of bioregenesis.
It seems like accelerating bioregenesis is a shortcut, like to true healing and seeking the highest source within and without. So it's like, you know what I mean? I don't really know, but that's just my take on that. You can pause this to read. I'm not going to go through it.
That what is happening with the channeling movement, it is a Anunnaki program. It is designed to give you a little bit of truth that you know is truth because it sings to you and it connects to you, but then distort the information. So if you haven't noticed, all of those channelers like Abraham Hicks and Bashar, they all just kind of, make you feel dazed and wow, that's so beautiful, glossy eyed, like in this state of astral bliss. How do you know that they're being truthful to you, to be honest? Really, we walk away from these channelers and the information they give without very much concrete information at all. We still don't know so much. We still don't know who we are and how to get access to this information ourselves. I mean, if they're here to help us, surely we would have had that help succinctly by now.
The people who were working and working with these people and channeling them don't know this. They were misled too. But sometimes they were misled because they were them too. You never know. It's very hard to tell whether the channel was actually victimized or whether the channel came in to an incarnation in order to victimize other people. It's hard to tell. But if you can realize that all these things that we call people are into in all the movements out there, the old-fashioned movements with mediumship and all that, the newfangled movements which involve channeling, which is the same thing as mediumship, it really is. You have conscious channeling, which is a little bit better because at least it's not fully fusing with your lower two strands, it's just fusing with the higher ones in strand 3. Right? There's all sorts of wacky stuff with tarot cards and astrology readings and all of these wonderful psychic arts and all that kind of stuff. And the people who are doing them haven't a clue about dimensional structure, about the structure or anatomy of the universe, their bodies, any of that other thing. If you're going to psychics to tell you what's up, you know enough now to be a better psychic than anybody you're going to talk to. You need to bring the power home again.